friends, and welcome to episode 99 of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. I'm Kimberly, your host, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Did You Bring the Hummus is a podcast for all things vegan. Episodes post every Monday on your favorite podcast app. Before we get started, I have one very important question for you. Did you bring the hummus? Do you love the podcast? Want to help me keep it going? Visit the Support the Podcast tab on my website to learn more. I've started offering meditation sessions over Zoom again. As of the publishing of this episode, they take place on alternating Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Sign-up options include individual sessions, a monthly subscription, or a 10-session package good for 6 months. Today, I am joined by Chef AJ. Vegan for over 40 years, Chef AJ is the queen of quick and easy plant-based recipes. She's the culinary wizard behind delicious dishes that are oil-free, refined sugar-free, and salt-free. As a chef, author, and host, Chef AJ is passionate about creating convenient and easy recipes that make healthy eating fun and incredibly tasty. I met Chef AJ at the same place I met Dr. Goldhamer and Mark Huberman at Ethos Farm Days in September, and my husband and I were the lucky recipients of the desserts she made on stage. These desserts are no joke. If you're going to buy one cookbook, buy her newest, Sweet Indulgence. I'll be sure to share the photos of the desserts with the post for this episode. Chef AJ is real, relatable, and so incredibly joyful. This interview was so much fun. If you're looking for solid guidance coupled with absolute enthusiasm for nourishing yourself, you've come to the right place. Hey, Chef AJ, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. What a fun name your podcast is.
Thank you.
How did you think of it?
So it actually comes from a meme. It's inspired by a meme, and it's they're dinosaurs, like T-Rex dinosaurs, like up in the corner at a grill. And then the like brontosaurus dinosaur, the vegetarian dinosaur, he's walking in and he says, "I brought hummus." And those T-Rex dinosaurs are going, "Who invited the vegetarian?"
Oh, that's
And it just was like, that's so true, right? We know that, well, for the most part, and we'll get to this in a bit, that for the most part, when vegans are at a place where no one else is vegan, they're going to throw hummus your way, or maybe some falafel if they
ah,
know how to, their way around the kitchen. But hummus,
that's
they're always like, they can eat this. We'll give them some vegetables. They'll be quiet in the
funny.
corner.
That is hilarious. Oh, I love that.
Thank you. So, first question for you is share with me your vegan journey.
Ah, okay. So it was 47 years ago on
Mm,
September 1st of 1977. I was a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. I went there because I wanted to be a veterinarian, and instead I became a vegetarian. And what happened is I was on a scholarship to Penn, and so I was working in a veterinary. I didn't realize it was animal research at the time, but I was working in a veterinary lab. And on the first day of the job, the veterinarian, the doctor, can't remember his name, he handed me a tank of live salamanders and said, "I need you to cut their heads off." And I'm like, "Well, why would we do that?" And he said, "I'm doing protein lens regeneration experiments in the amphibian. I only need the eye. They take up too much room." And I'm like, this is gross. And I didn't want to do it. But then a part of me was like, well, will I lose my scholarship? And so I cut the head off one salamander, and it was not pleasant because to this day, I'm almost 65. And if I get blood drawn, I got to look the other way. When I had relatives that would go fishing, I couldn't do it. I couldn't put that was just so mean to me, to whether it was the fish on the hook or living fish or a worm. It was like, and certainly I never hunted. I mean, I'm Jewish, and at least that's one thing that is against my particular religion that I was brought up with. And so it was a terrible experience. And I actually threw up, and I was
mm,
disgusted and with myself. And I went to the student health center, and I promised God, and I didn't know the word vegan then, but I said, "I'll never eat, or harm any of your creatures again." And so I became an instant ethical vegan, and that was fine. It was great, except that in 1977, we didn't have Neil Barnard. Well, he was alive, but we didn't have his voice with Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. There certainly wasn't an internet for us to look up things, or forks over knives. And so I became a vegan simply by omitting animal products, meat, fish, fowl, eggs, dairy products. But I didn't put anything healthy in its place, like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. So I became what is known as a junk food vegetarian. You can have French fries and Coca-Cola and Coke Slurpees and, all kinds of things are vegan. That doesn't mean they're healthy. And so what happened is that for the first 26 years that I was vegan, actually, truth is, my weight loss story does kind of intersect this. It wasn't all about weight loss. It was really about health. So what happened is after 26 years of being a junk food vegan, I was obese during that time, but I didn't really have any health problems like high blood pressure or high cholesterol or, diabetes or heart disease. But after 26 years of having daily Coke Slurpees and Dr. Peppers as part of my vegan diet, in addition to many cakes, candies, cookies, pies, and ice cream that were vegan, I started bleeding internally on January 1st, 2003. And it turned out I had what they call precancerous polyps in my sigmoid colon. And they could not remove them during the outpatient procedure because my colon was in a state of disarray. They said I had a dirty colon, even though when you prep for a colonoscopy or a sigmoidoscopy, you're supposed to be completely cleaned out. But 43 years of not eating a single fruit or vegetable or any fiber, well, that's what happens. And that's why many people do end up getting colon cancer. And so they couldn't remove the polyps, and the how do you say that? Gastrointestinal doctor, gastroenterologist
Yeah.
said that I would have to come back and have the regular kind of surgery. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. Because when I was 19, I had an outpatient procedure with general anesthesia and I almost died because I was allergic to the anesthesia. I stopped breathing. I said, no, thanks. And so I went instead to the Optimum Health Institute in Lemon Grove, California, near San Diego on July 6, 2003. And that is the last day that I really had any processed sugar, meaning like white sugar. My diet got cleaner as the years passed when I learned more about health and nutrition. And so I followed for 2 years a raw food vegan diet. It was already vegan, but I was not raw. I'm not raw now. This was the only time I did it, was the 2 years following the diagnosis. But it was also an unprocessed diet. So there was no processed food. There was no oil of any kind. No, not olive oil, not coconut oil. There was no sugar of any kind, just fruit. And there was no salt. And of course, no flour and no caffeine, no alcohol, all the things that people love. And after 6 months of eating clean, I mean, my weight hadn't changed. It still didn't change for many years because of another factor called calorie density, which we can talk about, because you can eat very healthfully things like, nuts and seeds and avocado. But if that's a big part of your diet and you're already overweight, it's kind of tough to take weight off when you have that many high fat foods in your diet. But even just eating the raw food diet without all the additions of what Dr. Goldhamer calls the stimulating chemicals that hijack the dopamine in the brain, the sugar, the oil, the salt, the flour. I never had alcohol, but boy, did I love caffeine, especially with sugar. Just how many weeks was it? Or no, wait, how many months was it? I think it was only about 3 months when I went back for a repeat sigmoidoscopy, and he said maybe it was 6 months. I'm sorry that I can't remember. If I had known this was going to be a story, believe me, I would have documented it. I would have written it down because they had pictures of my colon with all the polyps. I think it was 6 months. And so I went back and he could not find any polyps. And he said, I have photos of these. I know where they are. They're gone. Your colon is clear, clean, pink, and vascular like a newborn baby. Where are they? Where did you go and have the surgery? And I'm like, I didn't have surgery. I just changed my diet. And he goes, well, that's impossible. And the doctor who was assisting, another GI doctor who was from India, when he left the room, said, I believe you. And that was when I realized that what we eat, it has a profound effect on our health. And nobody ever told me that before. And most doctors still don't believe that or learn that today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And ooh, it makes me very happy for you and very angry for all of the people who don't know that and whose doctors will continue to push them for a surgery, for a treatment, for pumping them, full of drugs and chemicals and stuff. And they don't really stand a chance to have a high quality of life the more that happens when they could just change their diet. And I say just change their diet. It's hard.
It's really
Food that
hard.
we
Oh
eat
my
is
gosh.
so addictive.
Oh my God, food is so addictive. Not whole natural food. I don't see anybody attending Arugula Anonymous meetings, but I have a friend whose husband was just diagnosed with colon cancer. Now, thank God it's stage 1, and thank God he's willing to change his diet now. But And, he doesn't like the food right now because he's used to eating so much processed food. But yes, it is hard. I acknowledge that it is hard. But just because it's hard doesn't mean that you can't do it. If people can get through that period of discomfort where they call neuroadaptation, it is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, it's okay that you think the food sucks right now, because if you keep eating this, in quotes, sucky food, it will taste good once things have kind of reset.
Right, and if people wanna reset faster, there is a way. There's a place that I used to work in Santa Rosa called the True North Health Center, and if people do even a short water fast where they eat have nothing but water and it's under medical supervision, when you come off that fast, even if it's just a few days, but they fast people up to 40 days for various medical conditions, but even after a few days, they'll serve you watermelon and you think you're eating a hot fudge sundae. Even steamed zucchini after a water fast tastes sweet and delicious. And
Wow.
so when people stop eating the hyper palatable, high fat, high sugar, high salt food, yes, of course, there's going to be a period of discomfort. It could take 30 days for people to get used to not eating a bunch of salt, and up to 90 days if they've been eating a lot of fat, even 120. Sugar, you're always going to like, but you can, that's the thing. You can satisfy your sweet tooth without sugar. You don't need white sugar or agave or maple syrup. I wrote a whole book called Sweet Indulgence with 157 recipes, sweetened with the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the whole fruit. So I think sugar might be the easiest thing of all to not eat if you're, if you'll make some of these desserts, which is what I did. When I got off sugar, I didn't go from Coke Slurpees for breakfast to green smoothies or to eating vegetables for breakfast. I went to the richer things like chocolate smoothies made with spinach and dates and cocoa powder, things like that. So there's ways to make even healthy food taste delicious.
That's really fun. And I can attest to the recipes in the book, because I was at Farm Days a couple of weeks ago. And for the listeners, Chef AJ was up there on the stage. She was tossing out some snacks as she's making food. And the what were you made a chocolate mousse.
Yep, chocolate
And
mousse out of
then
tofu, and
yeah.
tofu is made out of edamame, which is a bean, which is
Mhm.
something you're a big fan of. Yep.
Yes. And then it was a peanut butter banana parfait, right?
Yeah, peanut
Yeah.
butter paradise parfait, yeah, and you know what, I don't know if I showed this there, but you can actually combine the 2 and layer them, and that's really
Mm.
mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was so delicious. And you look at these two desserts and they were super rich. I took a really nice photo. So when this episode goes out, I'll make sure to include that. The mousse was super rich and just this chocolate where, when you take a bite of something and you close your eyes and you just kind of have to make a noise. Both my husband and I did that with the mousse. And then same thing with the peanut butter paradise parfait. And paradise is a perfect word to be in the title of that one. There are these little like chocolate cake crumbles almost in there.
Yeah, yeah, like,
And
kinda like a mud pie dessert, I call them it's
yeah.
like dirt, but it's really just walnuts, dates, vanilla powder, and cocoa powder.
That's amazing because they both felt so indulgent. We had it was not long after lunch, which was whole food, plant-based, no salt, oil, sugar, and we were pretty satisfied from lunch, and then we're snacking on these desserts that you made, and we had to take a break because they were so delicious and indulgent. And when someone is worried that like, "Oh, well, I can't enjoy sweets the way I used to if I start eating this way," I'm here to tell you that's a total lie.
I know
So
you
buy Chef
totally can't.
AJ's book.
Desserts, even without my book, even before my book, because how many years ago was it? God, 15 years ago, I was a pastry chef in LA at a non-vegan restaurant. So dessert would be the easiest thing to have vegan because
Mhm,
nobody sits there and eats my German chocolate cake and says, "Where's the egg?" Or my cheesecake and says, "Where's the dairy?" Because it tastes just like the real thing to them, you know? And
mhm.
you can't necessarily give somebody who's used to eating steak, a piece of tofu. But dessert, Dr. Barnard always says, draw them in with dessert, hit them over the head with the kale after.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Was it a difficult transition for you to go from, or were you, well, I guess I should start this with, were you a traditional chef beforehand and then transitioned, or
So it's funny. I had a dream the other night about going back to culinary school, a different one, that one in New York with that 8-month program. Like,
oh
God,
yeah.
do that. I miss my husband and my dog so much. So I did go to culinary school in 2003. It was a raw vegan culinary school that's not there anymore. It was in where was it? Fort Bragg. It was called Living Light Culinary Art Institute. So I wasn't a chef, but I was still teaching cooking because I was a good teacher, and they saw the that I could articulate how to do things, because I had been cooking or baking at least since I was 7, because I got an easy bake oven. And while I do enjoy cooking, I enjoy making desserts more, because there's something about desserts that are just I love. I mean, I'm fascinated that like you can put stuff together and then you get a cake. Like
Mhm.
like when you make dessert, the finished product is different than the beginning product. But when you make a stir fry, it's the same. It's just, you know what I mean? And I just
Yeah.
feel like I would, as a little kid, I would look at that easy bake oven and like, how is this happening? How is this light bulb making this thing rise? I was, and I still like wonder, how does it do that? And the thing I love about desserts, well, first of all, I think desserts make everybody happy, and they tend to be so pretty and so colorful. And I've always just enjoyed doing that. And so, you know, I don't know. I started teaching cooking when I was 40 in the year 2000. There was I think it was the first vegan culinary school, at least in Los Angeles. It was in Santa Monica, and it was called Dick and Jane Cook Vegetarian. And I was just going there as a student. It was every Saturday from, I believe it was like 9 to 12, and you for $25, and you'd have this 3-hour course with like a famous restaurant chef and a full meal. And, I was just always there and always cracking jokes. And one day they said, "Why don't you teach?" And I'm like, "Okay, fine." And I taught my first class with my husband. It was called Comedy Cooking for Health and Good Looking. And, people loved it. And so I think I'm more a teacher than I am a chef, because I'm not a chefy chef. I take
Mhm.
every shortcut. My friend Ramses Bravo, Chef Bravo at the True North Health Center, just like he rolls his eyes because I use organic bottled lemon juice and lime juice, or I'll buy onions already chopped. And he's like, like that's just like, that's, I guess, a
Like,
no-no in the real culinary world. But I'm a practical person. And I know that, time and money are things that you have to decide which you have less of. And right now I have less time. And so if I buy a shredded bag of purple cabbage, I am going to eat that purple cabbage, which is healthy and delicious. But if I buy a whole cabbage, which is cheaper, it's just going to sit there and rot because I'm too lazy to cut it up. And so I guess I'm not a traditional chef in that world. I'm just a practical person who has chef before her name.
I love the way that you said that. You have to decide what you have more of, time or money. And that's going to change, right? I interviewed Tony Okamoto a while ago, and she kind of said the same thing. Like sometimes we're home, we've got the time, we can focus and we can just chop everything and do everything from scratch. And other times we've got to shell out a little bit more money and to make it work. But that's how you make this incredible way of eating and living sustainable, right? Because we live in a world where the stuff that's easy to pick up and just go with is not at all in alignment with whole food, plant-based, no salt, oil, sugar. Um, and so you've got to make it work for you. And when you've got like a strong why behind it, and then you're willing to tweak, like, okay, right now I've got more time, right now I have more money, and you kind of consider those two things. I think it takes away a lot of those excuses that we'll make.
Yeah, and they're not always mutually exclusive, because Tony's great the way she teaches people how to shop and look for bargains. Things like beans, for example. I mean, so, depending on the store, every store is different. But there are stores where salt-free beans do not cost more than beans with salt.
Mhm.
And so you can often find things on special, or things that are seasonal. Or my favorite thing is shopping at ethnic markets, because you can find some of the most unusual types of things like beans and potatoes and vegetables, and for whatever reason they're just a lot cheaper.
Yeah. One of your favorite things from my observations of seeing your videos, listening to you talk, are Japanese sweet potatoes. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah, Japanese or Hana, the ones that are not orange. And don't get me wrong, I love the orange ones for specific purposes, mashed at Thanksgiving or Christmas, cut into fries and air fried, or to use in recipes like my sweet potato enchiladas or my smoky sweet potato burgers. But for eating enjoyment, there is nothing like the ones that have the white flesh inside, or the purple flesh inside, which would be the Stokes or the Hawaiian because they literally taste like eating cake and the texture is different. The orange ones, when you roast them, tend to be mushy, which is why they lend themselves so perfectly to mashed potatoes. But the Hana yams and the Japanese and the Stokes, they retain more of like a firm texture, so you can air fry them. You can, oh my God, I had one for I love them so much. I eat one type of potato pretty much every day for lunch. I mean, once in a while I'll have something else like leftovers, but they really are good. And for people, here's what I say, because Mary McDougall once said this when I interviewed her, and I think it's really true. For people that have a real bad sweet tooth, or sugar addiction, it's not that you're not eating enough sugar or dessert. You might not be eating enough starch. And when you really are not afraid of starch and eat as much as I do, either from rice or beans, or in my case, sweet potatoes and sometimes potatoes, you scratch that sugar itch.
Yeah. All right. So time to up the starches in my life. Got
If
it.
you like them, I mean, do you like them? I mean,
I
beans are,
do.
beans are a starch.
Yeah. I love beans. I love rice. I
Yep.
love potatoes. Yeah.
Potatoes
All
are the
all
best.
potatoes.
That's the thing, I feel, with Dr. McDougall having passed away, who's going to carry the torch and explain to people the potatoes are not fattening. If anything, they make you slim. I don't know if you ever heard of Andrew Spudfit Taylor, but he ate nothing but potatoes for a whole year and lost 120 pounds.
Yeah. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
how delicious.
Yeah, and yeah, he, made them in different ways. I'm assuming I didn't follow him, real closely, but I mean, potatoes for the win. Let me tell you, potatoes been and rice too. And even beans are maligned. Beans are maligned for a different way because they have lectins. Oh my God.
Ugh.
Yeah, cook them. I don't know anybody that eats raw beans. Do
Oh
you?
my gosh. No.
Can't even eat them raw. Even undercooked, you can't eat them. So this whole
Right.
I get that, every time I speak, I don't have the patience of other people, but every time I speak, I get the lectin question. And I just refer people to a little video clip you can get it on YouTube now. It's from the show The Doctors, and Dr. Joel Kahn just kind of like basically explains the 411 on it. And oh my God, people are afraid of tomatoes and potatoes and beans. And it's like they don't seem to be afraid of like meat and oil and processed
Right.
food,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know?
they get a package of something where they can't pronounce more than half of the ingredients, and they're like, "Sure, I'll eat this, no problem." But yeah, then they hear this thing about lectins, and they're like, "Oh, I can't eat this. I'm gonna die."
Oh, funny, isn't it? Yeah. The plant food always gets blamed. Just like when they have an outbreak of, I think it's E. coli with the cows, the spinach. It's not the spinach, it's the cow. The cow pooped and there was E. coli or whatever the bacteria is in there that contaminated the spinach, but somehow the plant always gets blamed.
Right. Everyone's like, "No, throw away your spinach. Don't eat that
That's funny.
lettuce." So plants are super magical, especially this thing called calorie density. Can
I
you
love
explain
cow.
what that is?
Yes, and I didn't invent it. Whoever invented food, whether you believe in God or whoever, invented food. Food ranges in calories from 100 calories per pound on the low end and 4,000 calories per pound on the high end, and all kinds of numbers in between. And to understand the principles of calorie density, which if somebody really wanted to understand, they could look up a book by Dr. Barbara Rolls at Penn State called Volumetrics. They could read Dr. Dean Ornish's book, Eat More, Weigh Less, Dr. McDougall's book, The McDougall Program for Maximum Weight Loss, or my book, which is called The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss. When you understand calorie density, it's not about memorizing or having a book that says how many calories in a cup of rice or a half a cup of blueberries. It's about knowing the average calorie density of just a few food groups. And when you know that, you can tweak your diet. If you were to change the average calorie density of the foods you eat for by as little as 500 calories a day, you would safely and sustainably lose about a pound a week. And so many people that are overweight or struggle want weight loss like overnight, and they don't understand that that's not how it works. You did not gain the weight overnight. It takes time to take it off. It took me over 2 years to lose my weight. It was like 14 years ago, but I lost it permanently. It took me 27 months to lose 47 pounds. And now people want Ozempic and, surgery, and they want to lose it fast. And you can do that, but there's another way. And that's simply by employing the principles of calorie density, where you can actually eat twice as much food and take in half as many calories. Because if you look at a calorie density chart, and there's one on the back of my book, or I could send you one of mine or somebody else's, Vegetables have about 100 calories per pound, and that's on average. Some have less. And fruit about 2 to 300. Starches have between 2 and 400, things like winter squashes and potatoes and sweet potatoes. Whole grains have about 500 calories per pound, all of them, whether they have gluten or not. And beans, split peas, lentils have about 550 calories per pound. And if people focus their diet on the whole unprocessed starches, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, from those groups, they can eat ad libitum. The problem is most people aren't eating to what I call the left of the red line, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. They're eating to the right of the red line, which are things like oil, which is 4,000 calories per pound. And it's not that you can't eat fat, but you don't need to eat oil. You can eat it from things like avocado, which have like 750 calories per pound. Tofu, believe it or not, even though it's to the left of the red line, is high in fat. You can get fat in ways where you don't need the processed oil, which has no fiber. See, here's the thing. When you remove the fiber, you greatly increase the calorie density. So I eat olives. Kalamata olives are my favorite. And there, I don't remember if they're 400 to 600 calories per pound, but because they're a whole food, they have water and fiber and vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, and micronutrients. But when you press them into olive oil in a process requiring a toxic chemical called lye, you're left with the sludge. You have no vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, and micronutrients. And you have no satiety because there's no fiber. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes are full of water and fiber, which together create bulk, and bulk creates satiety, that feeling of fullness that tells you to stop eating. But what most Americans eat aren't those foods. They eat less than 10% of their calories from fruits and vegetables, and over 92% of their calories from animal products and processed food. And there's never been a time in human history where we had more vegan junk food. When I went vegan 47 years ago, we didn't have Beyond Meat and Better Burger and Tofutti Cutie. We didn't even have boxed plant milk then. I think there was maybe powdered soy milk. So, now you can have anything you eat as a standard American diet eater, you can find it vegan. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's healthy or it's better for the animals, of course, but it may not necessarily be all that much better for your health. But again, I don't look at things or people as bad or good or right or wrong. I just say this is calorie dense or this is calorie dilute. And since I like to eat very large meals, and it's so funny because people, until they understand calorie density, they don't understand it. So they look at me as a slender person now when I speak at these cruise ships and spas with literally the largest plate of food. And they're like, I don't know, maybe they think I'm bulimic. Like, how can you eat all that food? And I'm like, well, this is just my first plate. But when you understand that you can have, for the same amount of calories and a tablespoon of olive oil, you can have 2 pounds of zucchini or 2 pounds of salad. And I don't even know if I could eat 2 pounds of salad. I mean, I don't even know if I can eat 1 pound of salad. It's mind blowing to me. But see, people are eating things like animal products, which range in calorie density from 1,000 calories per pound or more. And even if vegans aren't eating animal products, a lot of them are eating bread. Now, I don't never eat bread. I didn't eat bread when I was losing weight, but bread is 1,500 calories per pound. The whole grains that the bread is made from is only 500 calories per pound. Anytime you process a food like whole grain into flour, you're making it calorie rich, nutrient poor, and you're decreasing the volume. And in order to feel full on fewer calories, you need a larger volume of food. Doesn't mean that you can only eat fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. You can have some nuts and seeds and avocado and things like that and tofu, but you want the bulk of your calories to be from this voluminous food. Things like, for example, cheese, even vegan cheese, 1,600 calories per pound. Sugar, 1,800 calories per pound. Nuts and seeds are between 2,600 and 3,200 calories per pound. And so if people just look at it through the lens of calorie density, it's not that these foods are bad or unhealthy, but when foods are calorically dense, if you want to lose weight or maintain a weight loss, you just need to eat fewer of them relative to what I call the foods to the left of the red line. And also there's this concept, I think it's Dr. Greger in his book, How Not to Diet, calls it preloading or front loading, like a washing machine, front loading. Where you eat, it doesn't mean you don't eat the richer food. You eat the more calorically dilute food first. So what that means, like, let's say you have a broth-based vegetable soup. Well, you're going to have a bowl of that before you eat your pasta. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or, even starting with a salad or things like that. And also eating the food whole, having the whole apple instead of apple juice. There's little tweaks you can make, and it's I don't know. I love quantities. I really do. Like I've never been on a weighing and measuring program or a calorie counting program because I'm told that they really don't work long term unless you keep doing them. So I love that feeling of fullness that I get after all my meals because I know I don't have to limit how much I eat as long as I change the composition of what I eat. And so, I think it's fun to be able to, eat as much as I do. I sometimes I feel guilty. It's like, because I have some friends that are, still overweight and they struggle. And it's like, what, just change what's on your plate and you can have as much as me. It's like, it's like to me, calorie density is the greatest thing since sliced bread when you understand it and implement it. And for people like, well, the McDougall program doesn't exist anymore, but for people that like could ever go to maybe the True North Health Center or even to a plant-based conference, because I was just got back from the Plantrition conference and they totally get it. You can eat, you can just eat all that stuff. It's really like a magical all you can eat buffet. And it just, like you say, here's the thing, you talked about how the food sucks at first. It's not even so much that it sucks in terms of it doesn't taste good. I'm glad you said that so that I can clarify this point.
Yeah.
It's not that it sucks. And the reason I know it doesn't suck is because a lot of us think it tastes really good, especially people that haven't had their palate adulterated. So, for example, using a person I know personally, Dr. Alan Goldhamer's son, Gar, who was born at the True North Health Center and now works there, because he never had, sugar, flour, alcohol, caffeine, the food that I'm talking about, he thinks is delicious because he's never had the other thing. When he was a little boy, he was told, if you're a good boy, we'll give you Brussels sprouts. And now Brussels sprouts are his favorite food. The thing is, what people don't understand is that there is a neurotransmitter that's released anytime we have a pleasurable experience. And for all organisms, or most organisms, the two most pleasurable experiences are food and sex. And when we experience those things, we get this little squirt of dopamine in our brain, like this it's like the pleasure chemical. Well, the eating of any food stimulates the production of dopamine in the brain. But the more calorically concentrated the calories, the more dopamine is released. So you get a bigger blast of dopamine from eating chocolate at 2,500 calories per pound than you do, sweet potato fries that are baked or air fried at about 400 calories per pound. So it doesn't mean that the food sucks or doesn't taste good. It just means that in your brain, tasting good means more dopamine. And so you have to go through that period of neuroadaptation, which can be suffering to some people in order for healthy food to taste good. But let's put it this way. If healthy food did not taste good, then no one could be doing it long term. And I don't know if you're familiar with some of the vegan doctors like Dr. Stefan Esser, Dr. Frank Sabatino, or Dr. Joel Furman. I mention them because they're not just regular vegan doctors, but they also do the SOS free. They wouldn't be able to eat. They wouldn't be able to. I mean, the thing is we do enjoy our food with gusto and relish. Now, was it always that case for me with Coke Slurpees? No, but the discomfort doesn't last forever. It really is almost like withdrawal from drug addiction. The first week was the hardest, and then it wasn't so hard anymore. I mean, I remember that's why I was in a place locked up. I was at the Optimum Health Institute. I think if you try to do this at home, if you have a stressful life and a family that eats a lot of junk food and a job you hate, and all kinds of other factors, I think it's harder. But if you can get yourself in a place where you can take the time for self-care, it's not as bad as you think. That said, it is hard sometimes for people because of social relationships and, work environments. And Dr. Goldhamer has a line. We live in a world designed to make us fat, sick, and miserable. And the pleasure trap is a real force. They call it the hidden force that undermines health and happiness. There's a book by him and Dr. Doug Lisle by the same name. And everywhere you go, people are trying to get you to eat crappy food. Let's face it. You go to the pet store to get a leash for your dog, and there's M&Ms at the counter. And I've never known a canine or a feline to eat chocolate, right? You go to Michael's Crafts or Joann's Fabrics or Home Depot. Everywhere you go, I recently visited a friend in the hospital, vending machines with ice cream and, Cheetos. So it's not, listen, if you like that food, I liked it too. I mean, I still probably would like it if I ate it. It's not your fault. You were designed to seek the most concentrated source of calories in any environment, but it's our environment that's messed up, not you. So if you find yourself struggling with food or excess weight, just know there's nothing wrong with you. We live in an environment that we were not designed for.
So, how do you navigate that environment?
Oh man, that is the hardest thing of all, let me tell you. So you set up systems, right? If you kind of look at the model for drug addiction, if somebody's an alcoholic, how do they navigate? Well, in some ways it's easier. It's not that alcoholism is less serious or more, I mean, or the food addiction, people will argue, well, my addiction is more serious because it could kill me faster. But here's the thing, in general, when people are alcoholics or another drug, they often go to rehab, yeah, of some kind where they're locked up and they get clean from the substance. And that is a first good step if you can do it. Even with food, believe it or not, it can be True North. It could be Frank Sabatino's place. It could be Dr. Joel Furman's place. There's other places. If you live in Ohio, Gracie Ewan's place. There's places you can go. So like food rehab, for example. So
Mhm.
where you're only fed whole natural food, or maybe you're water fasting, or maybe not. But then when you come home, you can't have the food in your house, and people are not, I don't want to say argue, well maybe they do argue with me or they get mad at me all the time because I've always said if it's in your house it's in your mouth, and it's true for me. I'm not perfect.
Me
I
too.
just don't have things in my house. I used to love apple fritters from Winchell's Donuts. I don't have them in my house.
Mhm.
I mean, I would probably love vegan pepperoni pizza, but it's not in my house. So if it's not in my house, it's not in my mouth. And so when you're in a mixed relationship because your spouse or your children or whoever you live with doesn't want to eat this way, it's hard, but you set up systems where you can at least navigate it. One of the things I really tell people is that if you can make healthy eating the default. So in other words, it's unrealistic for most people, even if you believe that abstinence is the way out. It's maybe not the only way, but it can be the easiest way for some, especially with food. There's an old saying by food addiction people that one bite is too many, 1,000 bites is never enough. And what was that quote by Saint Augustine? I wish I might Google it next time you ask a question. There's a brilliant quote about that. But the thing is if all we could get was healthy food, we would eat it eventually. Most people are not willing to starve. So even a True North where the food sucks, but it doesn't suck after your fast, eventually when you get hungry enough, you'll eat it because hunger really is the best sauce. And so if you do some kind of batch cooking where like when you open your refrigerator and instead of seeing I don't know what, some kind of junk food, vegan or
Mhm.
not, you see beautifully cut up. Like my refrigerator's over there, but I can tell you that I've got this. My favorite fruit is strawberries, and they've already been washed, and I have the stems cut off, and I have grapes. So you make it easy to eat because if you give your kid an apple or an orange, they're not going to eat it. But if they come home from school and that orange is peeled and segmented, and that apple is sliced with some dessert hummus, by the way, because you
Yeah.
can make hummus for dessert, or if you have the grapes off the stem. I know this is true because I have a friend with 8 kids, and she said this is exactly true that they would never eat it. But like you say, if the hummus is out and the vegetables are cut up, people will eat it. You have to make healthy eating the default, and you have to make it not just the only choice, but the easy choice. And that does require effort, where you're either going to have to do some kind of batch cooking yourself, hire somebody to do it, or now they have whole food, plant-based, oil-free food delivery services like Whole Harvest. So the thing is you have to have the healthy food somewhere for you to get it easily. And if you can do that and you're not competing so much with so much junk food, it is doable. It is hard because people are social creatures and they don't want to inconvenience people. But, it's like I always think about my acting teacher, Joan Darling, and she said, people would say to her, well, do I have the talent? Have I got it? Have I got it, to be a star? And she goes, how bad do you want it? So I wish everybody could feel the calm, stable brain that comes with not being in the pleasure trap so much, always having cravings and always being driven compulsively to eat unhealthy food. That's not fun. It's hard. Look, I hear from people every day wanting help with this. So I know it's hard, and it was hard for me, but it doesn't stay hard. If it stayed hard, nobody would be able to do it.
The convenience thing is that's really hitting me because I definitely do have those reactions to the vegan junk food when I eat it. And I'm like, oh, this is so good. And like, why would I ever stop eating this? Like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable or whatever, but oh, in this moment, I'm so happy.
Exactly, but here's the thing, you get, 3 minutes of pleasure from the dopamine, and then you have, like, a lifetime in pain and suffering, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you have to keep doing it, though, that's the problem, is you have to keep doing it because it
Mhm.
doesn't last, and then you habituate to need more and more and more.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the convenience, like if I was thinking about kind of the way my husband and I were in the middle of selling the house we're in, trying to buy a new house. So there's all that stress, right? And we're busy, we're in and out, we're looking at houses. And so we're not home as much. And then, we're trying to keep this house clean and organized and pack at the same time. And working, of course, we're both working, and it's like, we don't have time to make food, but we do have time on the weekends to batch cook. And
Mhm.
I know that you're right because at night after work, we're both exhausted, and it's like, what are we going to eat? And we open the fridge, and there are beautiful vegetables in there, and they are just getting sadder by the day because I didn't do anything with them. Neither of us bothered to cut them up or prep something, and they're just sitting there, and we go, well, it's 7 o'clock. I don't want to eat dinner at 9 o'clock at night. Let's just go grab something from the store, and we'll get, like, a frozen vegan pizza or something. And when we're still hungry when we're done, because it's really not that filling, especially when you're splitting one of those between two people. And then we are like, oh, well, what can we have for dessert? And instead of pulling out your book, we just grab a bar of chocolate or something like
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, no, but see, you're normal. Don't beat yourself up for doing what you are designed. There's a
that.
principle in the pleasure trap called the motivational triad. Organisms seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. And when you're tired, conservation of energy rules. And
Mhm.
grabbing that chocolate bar is going to rule. So if you were in my house and you were hungry and tired, instead of the chocolate bar, you would be grabbing, like right now, I have these little cherry cobbler desserts in my dessert and these little chocolate faux nuts in the freezer. So you would be grabbing that and still
Ugh.
have the dessert. So while you gave your beautiful explanation a few minutes ago, I Googled, and the quote that I was trying to remember from St. Augustine is complete abstinence is easier than perfect moderation.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that
So
is true.
I know it's a struggle, and it's like, vegans get mad at me because they go, "Oh, it makes it too hard to be vegan." And no, I don't care if you're a junk food. I mean, I'm happy when people are any kind of vegan, but if you're struggling, I was there for 43 years, and I was in your shoes, and it's just I'm just happier now, especially, and it's not just that I'm not overweight, it's just like I said, it's the calmness in my brain, because when I was addicted to sugar, that's all I thought about from the minute I
Oh,
woke up to
yeah.
the minute when I go to bed is where am I going to get my next fix? And I didn't really like that feeling, of
Yeah.
just that.
Mhm.
So anyway,
That's
whatever the
so
question, kale's the answer. Isn't it funny?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, if you just give it time, because kale was one where I was like, "I don't care what anybody says, I'm never going to eat this."
Ah,
And then I
oh,
started putting it in my soup, and I really like the texture of kale in my soup.
yeah.
And then I thought, "All right, what if I massage it?" So I started massaging it first with olive oil, and then discovered you can do that with lemon
Avocado,
juice
you can
and
do it with
yeah.
hummus. You can just massage it with hummus.
You're right.
Oh my God, Ann Esselstyn does that. You take your favorite hummus and then take your favorite kale and massage it, and just it's the act of the massaging that breaks it down. And
Mhm.
here's the thing. It's not like I sit there and eat steamed kale every day. It's not my favorite vegetable, but the way I prepare it, I've got one recipe called lip smack and mouth-watering kale. But my favorite recipe, and I'll tell you right now, maybe tell your listeners, is called pizza kale. And it literally tastes like pizza. It's so good. It's whatever kale you want is fine. For this, I use the Tuscan only because, again, for convenience, it comes in the 10-ounce bag from Trader Joe's, and it's cut up. I don't have to stem it. I don't have to cut it. But for people that have not really gotten used to eating kale, if they get baby kale, it's less bitter than mature kale, than the Lacinto or Nacional or whatever it's called kale, or the purple or the emerald, or even the curly kale. So for example, same thing with arugula and spinach. The baby, if it says the word baby on it, it's not going to have all the thylakoids, the bitter compounds on it. So this recipe takes about 3 minutes in the pressure cooker. And what I'm doing is I'm just cooking it just with enough water so the pressure cooker will work, like a half a cup to a 10-ounce bag of the Tuscan kale. And then I'm putting in 1.5 ounces of sun-dried tomatoes without oil. You can also get the smoked sun-dried tomatoes. They come in julienne slices. I'm putting in half a 12-ounce bag from this is all you can get these at all at Trader Joe's of artichoke hearts, frozen artichokes that have been defrosted. And then I like to cut them up a little bit smaller. And then I put that in the pressure cooker for 3 minutes. And then I take it out and I add Kalamata olives, and then I sprinkle it with something I called faux parmesan, which is made out of nutritional yeast. And even my husband, who like hates kale, like loves this. Like he would never just want to eat like steamed plain kale. It tastes like pizza.
Huh.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And I have a recipe in my book, Sweet Indulgence, for I wish I could remember the name of it. Basically they're kale chips, but they're chocolate covered kale chips.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're really good.
AJ, aren't you magic? Oh my goodness.
Once a sugar addict, always a sugar addict, but now I can get it in a healthy way.
What's your this would be like asking a parent who their favorite child is, but do you have a favorite recipe in your
Yeah,
new book?
I do. And I don't mind saying it because it's the one that's I think the easiest to make. And I always have it, and that's the thumbprint cookie. And it's just a cookie that's made out of dates and oats and vanilla powder, and it's filled with a fruit jam that you can either make from the recipe in my book or buy. And I choose raspberry, but I love these because they take like 10 minutes to make, and you're only baking them for 5 minutes. And it only makes 6 cookies. So for people who are like, oh, I can't have that much dessert in my house, this is like it's been my favorite recipe for a while. Yeah.
I'm very excited to give those a try. Thumbprint cookies are a family thing for me. I remember as a child, one of my uncles, he was like the cookie guy, and he always made tons of different cookies, and that was one. And so years and years ago, he shared his recipes with me. And when I was vegetarian, I was still making them per his recipe because I was using butter and eggs. And then when I went vegan, I had to learn how to veganize them, but I was still using, vegan butter, and they're
Yeah.
very rich and delicious. But yeah, so now I can have an even better version of those.
Nice.
Yeah, that
Nice.
is incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I'm glad that you like thumbprint cookies, and you know what I do when I make them? I don't just stick my thumb in. I like move that hole. I make that hole like a big well because I want a lot of jam in mine.
Mhm.
Yep. I'm a jam girl.
I love it. Oh, so good. So what do you have going on now? What are you working on?
So I do a YouTube show, and I don't do it every day anymore. So I did a show called Chef AJ Live from March 20th, 2020, the day that sheltering in place started, the pandemic in California, to June 30th, 2024. It was over 2,000 episodes. So I literally broadcast live 7 days a week for 4 years and 3 months.
Holy
And that
cow.
was just getting to be a little bit much, especially with a book coming out. So now I do the show about once to twice a week, and I still love to do that, but I'm doing a lot more cooking now. So on my YouTube channel, Chef AJ, you'll find a lot more recipes and me doing cooking demos, and it's shorter because not everybody has time to watch a 1 hour show every day, but now there's a huge catalog for you to catch up, everyone. I
Yeah.
do that. I also host summits, and so I hosted one on GI health. I host them on weight loss, and I get to interview a lot of really cool doctors and stuff. So I do that, and I'm always writing another book. Even when I'm not writing a book in my head, I'm always writing a book. So I'm always that's kind of always in the back burner, and just trying to spend as much time with my little dog Bailey, who's a senior now and needs a lot more care and attention.
Oh, sweet little Bailey.
Yep. I
Yeah.
wish I could have brought her. Yeah.
Chef AJ, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really have enjoyed this conversation. I have learned so much, and I cannot
Thank
wait to
you.
dig into your latest cookbook. I've got one more question for you, though.
Sure.
How does hummus show up in your life?
Oh boy. So hummus, I can tell you right now, the way it shows up right now is in a wrap because my
Mm.
husband loves wraps. And so he gets the one at Trader Joe's. They have two actually, one with lentil and one that's not. So right now, that's where it shows up in my life. I'm going to be real honest. I developed in 2015 a legume allergy intolerance. I don't know, depends who you talk to. I love beans. I mean, especially chickpeas, like are the best. You can roast them, you can air fry them, you can make tuna out of them. And I every few years I'll try again to eat them. So they don't show up so much in my tummy, but they're still, I mean, it's not an anaphylactic thing. They're still in my house. And I have found ways to make all my bean recipes without it, so that when people are eating my red lentil chili, it looks like I'm eating it, but I'm eating something else. I'm very clever that way, and I've still found ways to sneak it into desserts. So in my newest cookbook, Sweet Indulgence, there is a black bean brownie that is just amazing. It's called Outrageous Brownie. And then there's a recipe for chocolate peanut butter fondue or fondue that if people want to lower the calorie density, they can take half the amount of peanut butter and substitute black beans. So beans do still show up in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank
Yay.
you.
And good for you for finding other ways to work them in. So, and now you've got me curious. What's in your chili, your red lentil
Yeah.
chili?
So if you tasted them side by side, you're going to tell the difference. But I just made them for a shoot and they look the same. So what I do to make it look the same, so I don't want to call attention to myself or any of my, food allergies or intolerances. So when I'm serving it, I make a separate version, which has all the exact same spice profiles. All the ingredients are the same. The red bell pepper, the tomato paste, the fire roasted tomatoes, the onion, the garlic. But instead of putting in the red lentils, I put in millet and rice cauliflower, and it looks the same.
Mhm.
It's so, I don't even know how I thought of that, but I thought it was brilliant because we're actually going to be having a birthday party for a friend. He goes, "Oh, can you make red lentil chili?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." I make my own. They're not going to even notice because I'm going to have mine microwaved, and I'm a very good master of just not calling attention to myself. But obviously, if somebody else was making it, I would say, please don't do that because you give me a really bad tummy ache, and you don't want
We
to be
don't
there
want
when I'm um, not feeling my best.
I have some people in my life who think that beans are scary. And
Oh,
so this might be a fun way for them to have things that typically have beans in them without having beans.
right. Well,
And
I'll make my black bean mushroom chili at just about every potluck. And what I'll do is it's made in the pressure cooker. So when I'm going to make it, I don't put the black beans in. When it's done, I scoop out a few cups for myself, put it aside, add the beans. And when they're eating, it looks the same. They're not like looking like this saying, "Well, wait a minute,
you're like,
we're."
hey, where are your beans, AJ? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
exactly. And the flavor is exactly the same.
Well, thank you so
Hey,
much. I
thank
can't
you.
wait for the listeners to hear.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Chef AJ's explanation of calorie density completely opened my eyes. I thought I got calorie density before, but now I get it. How did Chef AJ inspire you? To connect with Chef AJ, visit her website, chefaj.com. Follow her on Instagram at @TheRealChefAJ and subscribe to her YouTube channel, Chef AJ. I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're loving it, please give Did You Bring the Hummus a 5-star rating and leave a review. It's an easy way to keep supporting the show. Be sure to share these episodes with your friends. If you're finding something good here, they will too. If you're a vegan or know a vegan who would be a great fit for the podcast, follow the Be a Guest link in the show notes. Fill out the quiz and I'll be in touch. Get on my mailing list and stay up to date on all things Did You Bring the Hummus? Get more info on how you can sign up for a meditation, one of my programs, or to support the podcast via the links in the show notes. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Did You Bring the Hummus, and visit my website, didyouBringTheHummus.com, for more information about me, updates on what I'm working on, new podcast episodes, and all things vegan. Finally, I would love to hear from you. What do you need help with? Is there a topic you want to hear covered on a future episode? DM me on Instagram or send me an email at info@didyouBringTheHummus.com. Thanks for listening.